Welcome everybody back to another episode of Non-Fungible News. As always, I am Tricky Boom. Today we have the War Dogs team. I think it's War Dogs, but I like to just pronounce it.
It's War Dogs.
War Dogs. Yes. Yeah, I like it.
We have Braden and Gerg. How are you guys doing today?
Super duper well, man, and super pumped to be here. Really appreciate you getting us on here.
Thank you very much for having us, man.
Glad to do it. Glad to. I've been talking to you guys about this for a little while, and it happened to work out this particular day. So really excited to hear more about the project. Let's just start with a little background on you guys. You know, how'd you get into crypto to begin with?
Cool. You know, it sort of started, and this is funny. We started with ADA as far as buying and trying to hold. But as far as NFTs go, we actually started in VeChain. And as Gerg was saying, maybe, just about a year ago now, my first NFT, and I think Gerg's first NFTs were the World of E cards, right? Like the X node.
The Genesis cards and the
Genesis cards and
yeah.
stuff like that. Yeah. And then right after that, I mean, whatever it was, a couple weeks later, we minted VKs, and then VGOs right after that. So yeah, that's sort of, the beginning of this whole thing was actually VeChain. I don't think a lot of people know that.
Yeah, before we went to the dark side, Ethereum, as we like to call it. But yeah. We got our toes wet in VeChain. I think for being honest, I think we paid like 40,000 bet for an X node card because we just got excited about it.
Yeah.
And
we made money on the Kings though.
We did.
We should have held, but
we certainly did.
Yeah.
But we got very excited about the Genesis and that there was NFTs on VeChain, because we were following VeChain for a little while with ADA, but I don't think we had bought any. But yeah, I mean, that was about a year ago, and then we decided, obviously to come back to our roots, so to speak, when we were thinking about launching a project. And I think community is like the big deciding factor of that, because having been on Ethereum, it was just so body. I mean, really, like if you're not a famous artist or an influencer, it's so hard to crack through. And we didn't want to play that game, with bots. And I see so many projects that were doing that at the time. And, it was just like such an aha moment, like go back to this community that we already like really loved. And I don't know why we even strayed away from VeChain, but going back to VeChain was the best decision I think we've ever made. I mean, just the community here is truly unmatched. Having visited and been a part of multiple different blockchains, like the community here is really truly something special. And I think Connor was saying something to that on our spaces last week. Like there's so many leaders, and like there's like truly like an impressive amount, like if from a business perspective, like people within VeChain, the ecosystem, that are leaders, but also like innovating in such a way that's like it's amazing. Like even if I knew about the JPEG store when I found out about VNFTs, I think I still would have probably stuck with VeChain, because it's just the usability, like where we're going, I think, with the ecosystem too. It's just really revolutionary, I think. And so yeah, I mean, that got into NFTs with VeChain, and subsequently left, and then have come back and are super happy and glad that we did.
Absolutely. And when Gerg says the best decision we've ever made, I mean, I don't think I've ever even said this directly to Gerg or maybe anybody, but I mean, just ask my wife. Like, this is the first time in many years where I've been happy to work. You know what I mean? Where I get up happy. It's like, it's time to go check in on the Discord, check in on the dogs, the spaces. So, I mean, we're already there. We're already to the point now where this is, something that we want to be doing, which, that doesn't happen a lot, right? So we got to keep it going.
Are you guys doing this full time?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, we're both filmmakers too, and now that the funds are drying up a little bit, there's talk of getting in real life job, because like it's weird because we can't focus on filmmaking and this at one time. You know what I mean? Because they're both so all consuming sort of thing. But I mean, our vocation, we're filmmakers. And so, yeah, I mean, we were able to put a lot of time into this, and that's certainly an advantage that we had, you know, moving forward.
Yeah.
You guys are geographically close then in real life as well?
We are not.
No.
Yeah,
Gerg's in New York and I'm in Texas.
New York.
Okay. So what brought you two together?
So that's, yeah, I mean, you want to start, Gerg? Destiny?
Yeah, I'd say so. We first met, I'll never forget the time we first met, Braden, and I think I've told
I
you
do
this
forget
story.
but I was busy.
He was busy. I had time to remember.
I remember the day though.
But yeah, we first met on a set for Vet TV, and you know, that was our, I mean, for years that was what we were working on together, is trying to build this, you know, comedic network for veterans, which is still going. And so yeah, we went just on film, doing film. I was acting, Braden was directing, and I ended up joining that team, yeah, for about four years. And we were doing film, making, you know, a new piece of content every couple months, like a new 6 to 9 episode show, which was very stressful, and it definitely took a toll on, I think, both of our mental health. And it was a lot. I mean, you know, to think about, like, just from the writing process to, you know, casting everything, like, we're literally pumping this shit out every 2 to 3 months from scratch. Like, there's just nothing, we have nothing to release. We have to make something from start to finish in 3 months. And we did that for 4 years, basically. So it was a hell of a grind. And, you know, I'm not a veteran myself, but, you know, we worked with a lot of veterans, and it kind of had that feel like we were in this shit together. I'm sure to an extent, the kind of closeness that you might get on a deployment or something, where you're just with your boys, like, just having to go through the shit. And so Braden and I got really close. Just we love film, obviously, and we love, you know, dark comedy especially. We definitely connected, I think, on our shared sense of just what we appreciated and enjoyed watching, and our, you know, similar sense of humor. And we just got really tight, just making this content for Vet TV and trying to build that network. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of how we met, and how we, I think, got really close, going through the shit together. And then and now, you know, I think we're looking at Web3 in a way that I think could be really helpful and conducive to funding indie filmmaking. So that's kind of our end goal. We'll talk a lot more about that, I'm sure, at some point. But yeah, that's kind of the origin story. I told a very stupid joke too when we first met that I'm going to say again, and because I'm doing this veteran thing and I'm acting in it, and Braden's like, "Are you good? You good to go?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I watched 13 hours for 13 hours, so I'm I think I'm ready." That was my.
I'm so sorry, dude.
That's my
do
prep
not
work.
remember that.
Yeah,
I mean, film sets are so, you know, like, balls to the wall.
they're crazy.
I'm sure I was just like, yeah, okay. Anyways, go do your
Sure,
fucking job.
great kid. Okay, so you don't have a line, you know that, right? You're just at the back. You're just the tree. You know that.
Oh, that's funny, man.
Yeah, but
So
that's kind of the story.
Yeah, I couldn't have explained it better myself. It's exactly what it went down.
So I would have to guess that being in the film industry, you guys are naturally creative people. And, you know, like you said, you had to put something together from scratch in a few months. That probably helped you propel you into the NFT scene that you're into now, I would guess.
100%. Yeah, I mean, it's actually very similar, at least like the way that me and Gerg approached making NFTs. You know, us not being artists, but you know, we hired an artist, and, you know, basically what we did in film. Gerg was an actor too, but primarily, like, at least towards the end with Gerg, and my whole career was, you know, writing, producing, and directing. And so when you're doing that, you're convincing people to make things for you, right? And so in that respect, it's very much like the NFT and War Dogs as a result of, you know, me and Gerg essentially communicating a vision with somebody. Very similar.
So what was kind of the tipping point that got you two to say, all right, we're going to make a project, we're going to give this NFT thing a go?
So I would say, Gerg, do you have an answer, Gerg, or do you want me to go?
Yeah. Well, I don't have it. I just, like, I know it was around when Cool Pets came out.
Oh, really? I think he's going to say something else.
But yeah, I mean,
I think for me, it's like, you know, it comes back to the film thing, right? And, you know, post Vet TV, such an overnight success for us. That, you know, it was a combination of luck, and then, you know, we just found the niche market like that we were, you know, targeting almost right away, and we had almost instant success. And that's not a common thing in film. You have to usually struggle for, you know, decades, and if you have any sort of success at all, really. So then for me, it's like, you know, well, how do we recreate that? How do we get back to that while doing something completely different than Vet TV in an independent manner? Because, you know, that's one thing about me and Gerg, is that we're diehard independent filmmakers. Like, don't mess with Hollywood. It's sort of a philosophical thing. We don't have to get into it, which, you know, but you can see that maybe it ties into Web3 a little bit, like Film 3 and the opportunities for independent filmmakers. So that's really, for me, you know, where like the gears started turning for Film 3 is like, you know, we've made our mark on the independent, you know, YouTube-y, PETA, whatever you want to call it, SVOD model filmmaking, but now it's time to really try and do something fresh and be pioneers essentially in this space. But you know, I interpreted that question a little differently. I think that with Gerg, he was going for more of like a, you know, this exact moment, you know. So go ahead, Gerg.
Yeah, well, I mean, I thought that was a way better answer, because I just remember that like around when it was that we kind of had that moment where like we should just go for it. And Cool Pets had just come out, but that doesn't.
That's right. But, and you know what's, you know, about that too, is you want to talk about how we were like sort of in the middle of trying to start a second Vet TV in Code 3 TV. And then we pivoted away from that to do War Dogs.
Yeah, I mean, really, the filmmaking aspect is so big for us because we saw NFTs as not only something. I mean, I'm a collector. Like, I like when I was a kid, you know, it was just always mint condition with the Star Wars and the Beanie Babies, and I love, you know, the collecting aspect of NFTs. But seeing them as, you know, a startup, you know, for a small bit, for a, you know, a tech startup basically, or, you know, to try to fund, you know, a business, you know, I think that just lends itself to this Film 3 kind of indie world where you're seeing projects getting funded by audiences that are into that kind of content. And we saw that with, you know, obviously the niche veteran community that we had already, you know, found with Vet TV. It's like, okay, well, NFTs just seem like the natural progression to fund other endeavors. And so film being one of those things, and not one that's been explored too much yet, which I still don't think it really has been explored too much, Film 3. I think that was really exciting to us. Okay, so we're going to start this. What we're going to do is we're going to leverage the NFTs to start a network, not for veterans, but for first responders, for, you know, fire, EMS, and police. And it's going to be called Code 3 TV. So that was our initial, like, we're gonna, you know, do Code 3 TV, and we're gonna fund it through NFTs, and then we're gonna be able to make, you know, a pilot, or, you know, the first season of a show for that community, for that, you know, EMS fire rescue community, in a very dark comedic way, like a show made for them where we're going there where maybe Chicago Fire PD can't go because they're on TV. You know, that was one thing that Vet TV got very popular, because we were going as dark as you could possibly go within the veteran community. And there's just so many shows that are made for a wider civilian audience that aren't willing to touch that or go there. And so I think that's why people latched on to Vet TV, because we were really going in on it. And
we crossed the line for sure. But we found the line. We now know where the line is.
The line is very apparent. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that was it's like, okay, Code 3 TV, that's what's going to happen. And, you know, since have obviously not done that, we've shot a pilot-ish or a trailer for Code 3 TV and hope to do something with that someday. But what happened is we came into this community and we just kind of found our DGen counterparts and like a lot of friends and homies within Web3 that were like, we're here. We're like, this is now our community. Like, this is the kind of people that we want to make film for, as much as we love the veteran community, as much as we love, you know, the first responding community, and think that there is a market there. The DGen culture and like the lifestyle is us. And like, it's kind of like what we are now like more excited about doing, is making content for this community. So, you know,
and when Gerg says more excited, like everything is halted. Like, it's just this, you know what I mean? And and like, the DJing culture, and it's completely untapped as in the way that me and Gerg's minds and the way that we think. I mean, when you look at some of the bigger influencers on Twitter and Ethereum and stuff like that, I try not to sound cocky, but I mean, it leaves a lot to be desired with their filmmaking skills, right? A lot of the videos are, Gerg, do you want to say like what the most popular dude did or whatever? It was like he got up. It was a shot of him. I think he had the phone on a tripod, and then he's like, what happens when you have to go see your Web3 crush, and then he gets up and runs out of the room, and it had like millions of likes. It was just something that was just really not there. And I think that Gerg saw that as an opportunity, like, hey, we can really come in here and make some big changes to Web3, Film 3 as we're calling it.
Yeah, I mean, just like, and he's an influencer, and I think that we're looking to actually make a legit show someday about degens and that the Web3 culture. And what I found, a lot of us 30 something year olds, which I thought that we'd find a lot of younger kids kind of in this game, but I've found that there's a lot of like guys that are our age or even older that are in this, but navigating this as like a 30 something year old in your 20s too, but navigating this kind of new world of Web3 is quite funny. And I think we've had a lot of experiences that are just like, what is this? Like, what is like, how do we do this? And it's just like using alt accounts like to boost stuff. And it's like, there's a lot of comedy and like put in the right hands of like an Always Sunny in Philadelphia kind of like character crew. Like if they took that and went into Web3, like they're not in it with good intentions. Exploit and like scam as many people as they possibly can to make as much money as they can. And I don't know, there's just like something very funny and comedic there that I don't think has been explored, like in a show, like in a way that's like an actual like sketches and influencer content's great, and they are that, and they have their purpose, but like no one's really gone out and done a Workaholics with three dudes living together trying to make it, or trying to be surrounded in or trying to make it big in Web3, I guess, at all costs. So that's kind of like what we saw is like maybe an end goal for us with our project. And I think we're like going way past what you asked. But like we're going way into it, but I'm sorry.
It's all good.
But
so
yeah,
I like where you guys are going with this. This is unique, and I definitely think that you guys are going to have you're filling a niche, like you guys said, that has never been explored or very minimally explored. So we'll get back to this, but talk a little bit about your project, minting, your community, and we have a greater VeChain community, but most of these projects have 2 to 500 wallets, 2 to 1,000 wallets, whatever. Talk a little bit about your community, your project, and how it all went from minting until now. What has that been, about 3 months ago that you guys minted?
It's going on 3 months.
Almost,
I want to say it's two and a half, 2 3/4.
Yeah. The end of this month will be 3 months.
Well, yeah. I mean, so we came in, and the first thing that we did was we started getting advice, because I think that's something that I learned in the Marines, certainly, and me and Gerg learned in the film world is advice from people who know how to do it right. And so a lot of the feedback, I remember specifically from Braden in BC, and specifically from Eisen of Psycho Beast, was don't rush into it, right? And so we were trying to mint a month later or something like that, and that oddly enough kind of goes against me and Gerg's ethos.
A month earlier than we did. And so it was refreshing, because we received some good feedback of like, hey, maybe build up the community a little bit more and this stuff, and so we kind of took that to heart. And honestly, I don't think we could have minted at a better time. So yeah, we minted on the 30th of July, and minted out in, I think it was 16 hours. I think it was 12 hours for public, and so it was a fast mint out, and even for VeChain, I think. And so it was one of those things where I don't even think we took a day off. I think it was just the next day. It's like, okay, now we were smart enough at that point to realize now the real work begins. We had the wherewithal for that, and so we weren't in a position like, what do we do now? We had thought about it, and
it's like, okay, now it's time to start executing on some of these steps that we've talked about.
I know we were like, you know, with our mint itself, the 16 hours is phenomenal, but I think we, like, knowing what we know now, like 1100 on the public was kind of like
tough.
Way too much. Like if I'm gonna redo it, I'm not gonna put our public mint at 1100. And here's why. I really thought that people were gonna buy a lot more at 900 vet for the whitelist, and we ended up with maybe less than 1,000 sales on the whitelist, and that was going for a couple hours. But like, I'm thinking like, okay, they're gonna gobble up like half or maybe, you know, maybe more on the whitelist because it's cheaper, obviously, and that just didn't happen. And so looking back on things, like the 1100 like vet public mint price was kind of a lot, and like to sell especially like 3,000 plus NFTs at the time, like it was a lot. So yeah. I mean, that's just like retroactively, like looking at like what happened on mint day, I was like quite nervous because we didn't, you know, mint as many as I really kind of projected before the public started. And I know that's like, it was a nerve-wracking day to say the least. But since then, you know, Braden and I both like have kind of known, I think from the start, like, okay, this is, once it mints out, like that's when the real fun / work begins. You know, everything that we've promised on the roadmap is a lot. You know, it's a comic and, you know, merch at some point, and among other things, like the film 3 aspect of things, which we really haven't talked much about, and I'm glad we're talking about it here today. But these are some big endeavors. Like these are big things to come through on, and I've seen so many projects not come through on stuff that it's like, yeah, it's time to get down to business and start executing, along with, you know, like figuring out our Gen 2 and what we're going to do with that. So we were super stoked to mint out, obviously, but you know, the last couple months have been quite a grind to try to make good, and to try to, you know, at the end of the day, as a project team and leaders, like you want to provide as much value as you possibly can for your holders, for your investors, you know, like any business, like any good business, we want to show good, you know, profit margins, or we want to, you know, like whatever it is, like we want to come correct for the people that were there with us on midday, for the people that have stuck with us, and for, you know, the people that believe in us. So I think every day is like, you know, a goal to just try to provide that value at all costs. I mean, whether it's the comic or the merch or our floor price, you know, it's our duty to ensure that we never fall below what we ask people to invest into this project. And so that's, you know, our theme throughout the last few months, I think, has been, it's just to try to come correct in that way. So yeah,
and so far so good, right? I mean, you know, we minted at the 1100, and I want to say the last I checked is there were like 8 or 9 away from a 2000 vet floor. So, you know, if you minted and you have a floor dog, you know, you're right around 90 to 100%, depending on what you're ranking your ROI. And you know, I mean, not every project, that's not important to every project, but it's certainly important to me and Gerg that that's like you know, one of the main factors of this first collection.
Yeah,
and
that's awesome. You guys' floor is tearing it up, and I mean, your community is huge. I mean, everywhere I look, I see War Dogs, and you guys have your Thirsty Thursday space, which is established and pretty big space, I'd like to say. I mean,
yeah, it's been getting pretty big. Yeah.
This last week was
pretty monstrous, actually.
Yeah, it was intense.
That's awesome. You know, building community, getting people's faith in you and what you're doing for the project, because I mean, it can't just be one-sided, right? It has to be what's good for the goose is good for the gander. And I mean, you have to go into a project like this knowing that. And I mean, it shows that you guys are putting in the work. So your roadmap, I haven't looked at it, but it sounds like you guys have some pretty big things on there. But so the film 3 is kind of the ultimate end goal of your guys' project. And I mean, not goal, but what you're working towards is that, and that will be rewarding the holders, I'm guessing.
I'm glad you brought this up, and me and Gerg were talking before this that we've tiptoed around the Film 3 thing on various spaces and stuff like that, and I think now is a good venue where people can see us face to face of kind of delving into that. But let me rewind a little bit in that, the roadmap, it's when you look at the roadmap itself, it's a little outdated in that, it's basically got merch and it's got this comic book, which people are excited about, which me and Gerg work on every day. And that's a big endeavor of ours. And we will deliver that. But beyond that, it's not really, there's not really anything. It kind of ends with that, right? And so now is a good time, and we are working on getting a visual roadmap going. We want to use our artists, but we don't want to take away from because right now he's currently working on the Gen 2, which we're calling the Portal Dogs. And we should talk about that a little bit too, maybe even before the Film 3 stuff, just because it's kind of like that's next before, this Film 3 stuff. But, to kind of answer your question on the roadmap, it doesn't show all these grand visions of Film 3 and stuff like that. And I think we're looking to update that, and we're looking to, let people know here today and moving forward our intentions. And
I will say, just to cut it in, we were talking earlier, Code 3 TV was going to be the way that we kind of came into Web3 is to try to build this network. And that's still very in the back of our heads. We just thought that film as utility, I don't know, I think that needs a little more warming up, so to speak. So we're looking at staking, we're looking at, obviously the comic and merch and all that fun stuff. Play to earn obviously is a huge deal, and I think one of the biggest reasons to invest in some of these NFTs. And we're not gamers. We're not going to pretend to be back end. We're not.
Oh wait. Slow down. I'm a gamer.
Sorry.
Not game developers.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sorry about that.
Braden, no, that's a very.
I'm a hardcore gamer.
Very
let's not
important
be mistaken.
Point and delineation. You're so right. I'm sorry, and I did not.
I'm sorry I interrupted you.
No, you should have, because that was disrespectful for me to say. I apologize, because Braden is a huge gamer. I am not, and neither of us are game devs, so we're not gonna pretend to whip up something for you guys. I'd love to make a claw game someday where you can grab dogs out of a virtual thing and get NFTs that way through a claw machine. Anyway, that'd be very fun, but we're not that. So to kind of break in, we want to appeal to the Web3 audience via staking mechanisms, via the things and utility that we know exists and works in this industry. And film, as I saw the ones on Ethereum, the ones that were actually pretty good too, kind of fall short of their mark, kind of realize that we're maybe not there yet to introduce something film related, or for film to be important enough for people to invest in the project.
Right.
So, film is there for always what we want to strive to do eventually, but putting that in the actual, we just felt like we needed to kind of rally our community and get people behind us and what we're doing, and then we can maybe introduce this at a later date. So it's kind of a rollout plan. So it's going to be a slow roll as far as the film stuff goes, but it was kind of let's get people's ears and attention, and hopefully they like what we're doing and our philosophy of how we go about things, and then we can maybe work on film if they're with us still at a later date, and that's what we're still hoping to do. So
And one thing I want to say, bouncing off of that, is that, I think that one thing that we did, and we, it was intentional, just like Gerg was saying, when we were about to launch the project, we had been into NFTs long enough to know, well, this project promised too much. This project, failed to deliver this. So from the get-go, and Gerg touched on this, we really wanted to be the project that didn't overpromise and underdeliver.
Yeah.
And I think that we were able to nail that. And I remember Brad saying that at some point, that, that we were able to execute on what we said, because we didn't go super grand. Like you see some of these things. We're like, hey, we can do a comic book. We know we can do that. We know we can hire somebody to put some pictures of dogs on some shirts and, call it a day, sort of thing. But since then, the ideas are always grinding. And so our Gen 2 is coming out soon. And I think now, maybe is a good segue into that and we can get a little plug to that too, because that's coming mid-November,
so
about midway through.
These Gen 2s, I like them from a good project, absolutely. there's been a lot of chatter across the Twitter and everywhere else that like Gen 1 wasn't enough, so we're going to throw out another NFT and take your money, which, I mean, it's not necessarily taking your money. You can look at it two different ways. I look at it as, well, it's my problem if I invest in your Gen 2 and you don't deliver anything. That,
For sure.
Problem, not yours. Yeah. But that is something that's a big chatter lately. So lay it on us, the Gen 2.
Yeah.
Why? What?
So yeah, I mean, and we're definitely aware of that, and super self-conscious of that, and I do want to say that we don't want to become a project that's just pumping out generation after generation. And I think that the portal dogs, as we're calling them, it's something that we wanted to do. It's a variation of what we wanted to do from the get-go. But I will say that we've looked at the numbers and the way that we're dropping. So half of these, we're calling them vials right now, we're calling them portal passes, whatever, it doesn't matter. We're dropping the mechanism, it's an NFT, we're dropping half of them to the holders, right? And it's a one-to-one thing, and then we'll put the other ones on sale for a really reasonable price. And so when we're looking at the end state of how much money we're stacking, it's really not that much. And I guess this is a good question that you have, because it's something that we haven't talked too much about, but moving forward past the Gen 2 into the Film 3, we are going to be asking people to sort of invest in us and this film thing, while hopefully they're getting a good return on their investment, sort of thing. And so I think that's sort of what we're looking at. And yeah, I mean, like I said, kind of wrapping back around, like, we certainly don't want to be one of the, perceived as a project that's just getting a bunch of money, off of new pictures. And we don't want to be that either. Not just like for the money thing, but also just because, as we evolve, we want to, we want to change the game when it comes to Film 3.
Well,
do you have something to add, Gerg?
Yeah, and I think we're not going to roll out a Gen 2. Obviously our floor price is above what we minted at. That was very important to us. Like, let's get the floor up to a point where we would even warrant a Gen 2. Like, why would you sell anything if your floor isn't like risen to some degree? So it's like step one, like, let's get our floor up. Like, let's do enough for the community to where a Gen 2 even is is askable. But also it all goes back to trying to provide as much value to the OG holders, the people that minted day one, as possible, right? So with the Gen 2, you're going to get one-to-one portal passes. If you own 5 or more dogs, you will get 1-to-1. So you'll get, if you own 100 dogs, you get 100 portal passes. And what we're really trying to do and what we're trying to explore is, aside from utility, is to try to create 2 collections in one. So, the portal passes being a deflationary token, I don't think it's really been explored too much on VeChain yet. And I've seen it, happening on Ethereum and other blockchains quite successfully. So having a token that you can burn to then, create your portal dog, I don't think it's something, again, it's like just trying to innovate in a way with our PFP collection too, like, at the end of the day, the OG holders that had War Dogs day one are going to benefit the most from portal dogs, so, and if they don't want to buy any of the ones on second, like, they don't have to. They're going to be airdropped, as many dogs as they own. They're going to be airdropped an equal amount of portal passes. So, we want to ensure first that our OG collection is valuable, and I just think that this is another way for us to do that. Obviously we're going to have to ask for X amount for the rest of the portal passes, but I think that we're going to ensure that even if you're not an OG holder, or if you want to get into the portal passes, there will be an opportunity there for you to invest in something that's going to be deflationary on VeChain that hasn't been done before. So even if you don't have an OG dog and you just want to buy the portal passes, I think that there's a really good reward there to just investing in those by themselves. So I don't know, it's kind of a multi-layer approach to try to provide enough value to our OG holders, but also trying to introduce something new to people from Algo, people from other chains that aren't as familiar with VeChain, to see that we have different projects doing kind of different things. We haven't seen too many mutants yet on VeChain, and obviously the Bored Apes are a big inspiration of ours, and that kind of got us into doing this second gen. But I hope that there is kind of within this new collection an opportunity for the OG holders, obviously, to get their airdrops, opportunity for new investors coming in to see, oh, okay, VeChain does do this too. That's very cool. They can invest in the portal passes alone. And then also seeing the portal passes and the dogs being revealed, hopefully that will kind of bring and drive new attention to VeChain, because these dogs are going to be dope as fuck, okay? Because we haven't talked enough about that. They are going to be so sick. And
they're unbelievable.
We've only revealed, I think, 30 or so traits out of the 150 that we have. And I think we've already gotten such a great reaction response for them that I'm just excited about portal dogs in and of themselves being their own thing too. And we're going to ensure that they're going to be a lower supply, obviously a lower supply than the OG collection, but maybe like even half, like two to maybe 3,000 max,
right,
will ever exist. So I don't know. I just think there's kind of different ways of looking at this next collection. At its roots, it's us trying to get back to the OG holders always, but also there will be utility to the portal dogs themselves. You know, we haven't really nailed that yet, whether that's going to be a bounty like we did with the OG collection, or whether that's going to be a staking pool. We haven't quite solidified yet, but it will be very, like, you know, 500,000 vet rewarding back to the community. And we really haven't, you know, we're going to decide that with the community. We haven't really had those discussions yet because I think we're still a good 3 weeks plus away from launching, but it's going to be a built-in staking mechanism, or it's going to be some kind of similar bounty to how we did the OG collection. So in and of themselves, the portal dogs are going to be valuable with just that alone.
When we launch the portal dogs, we're going to go from one collection to 3, right? And it says, Gerg mentioned, the portal passes will be its own collection. That's deflationary. When you burn one with VC, so that'll help our VC generation, you know, it's lost, and then therefore there is, you know, a finite amount of those, and we're just like really hoping that becomes something that becomes valuable for those people. And so if you're you know, a whale, you don't have to use, you know, you can stack up these portal passes and then hopefully, you know, make some vet off of them. That, and then also just to clarify, the reason why there are going to be fewer portal dogs, we just changed the name of that, by the way, is because the math works out to the point where even if all of the vials or the portal passes are used, it will not be enough to be. So we are basically, you know, we're making it so you have to make some hard decisions with these portal passes. And I think that's what's fresh about it.
Well, that's something that speaks to not only just the whales, but somebody that holds, you know, a handful of these, making those difficult decisions is like, okay, well, how bad do I want to stay in this project? How much faith do I have in this project? I think that'll really bring out your very good holders and community members.
Yeah, for sure.
So we just got a couple minutes left here, but we covered your guys' history, why NFTs, and a lot about your project and what's to come. Do you have any final parting words?
Yeah, I think I'd like to, you know, whether I've been talking about it too much or whatever, you know, I guess we'll let praise decide that. You know, back to the future thing of film 3, and that, you know, we do have like a 6-month and a 12-month sort of plan. And I do want to say that when we do this film, and as Gerg mentioned, it's probably going to be a show, not a movie, you know, and I just want to let everybody know that our hearts, me and Gerg, are always thinking about VeChain, because it means that much to us, like that we were accepted by this community, that the fact that I want to get up in the morning and go talk to everybody, and it, you know, I jump out of bed for the first time in like a decade, and you know, I'm just super ready to engage with everybody. That we want to bring as many people. Our main goal is to bring as many people as possible into this ecosystem, and we've been trying to do that. We have been doing that. You know, we've been taking certain advantages. I mean, there's Sigtoshi from, what's up, Leo, NBA, who's doing a really great job, and we've kind of capitalized on that. You know, we have a huge algo community, and we're going to keep that sort of thing up. Our mods are really great, and our community is awesome, and we're all on the same page. Like, we're getting the wallets into VeChain, and so when you see us next year, you know, start talking about a Gen 3 and how the utility is film, I kind of wanted to get this into people's heads now, and you know, they can start funding us now, or you know, start questioning this now. That's great. That we want to convince you that the film is the utility of the next project, because we will be getting people to come to VeChain. That's going to be that's going to into every single aspect of like when we build the film up. Like what's the first thing? The one thing that me and Gerg are good at is making films for a niche, right? That's the one thing that we've been super successful in our lives. And I think that because we are degens and we are here, like in the trenches with everybody, we are the perfect people to be able to do this. And that's what we're going to spend after we launch our Gen 2. That's where we're going to spend a lot of time convincing people to play.
Yeah, and it's going to take a lot of convincing, and I hope that Braden's done so much more work than I have, being in spaces and being accountable and being a little bit more of a face for War Dogs than I have, and I will tell you, being his friend, like this is something that we both truly enjoy doing and spending time doing. Just I don't know if this was on the recording or not, but Braden's saying that this is something that he is happy to get up and do. We were doing film for 4 or 5 years independently and hating most seconds of it, and people would be very fortunate to be in the positions that we were in, and we absolutely hated it. And I think it came down to multiple factors, obviously, but not being aligned with a community that we truly felt like we were a part of. Even though Braden's a veteran, the content we were making is not necessarily something that he would sit down and watch. Some of the shows that we made, sure, but this audience and the people that we've made friends with in this community and attach ourselves with, I mean, this is truly something that we feel like we can be, not to toot our horns, but like we can truly like bring like a Workaholics or Silicon Valley like vibe, to this community, which I think film and what film can do in a social aspect, regardless of utility, because everyone wants utility. They want the staking day one, they want the benefits right off the bat. And I don't know, I hope that we can convince people to be a little more patient. I mean, I guess, play to earn games are that, because you got to wait a year for the game to come out, right? If you invest in a project like that, unless they've been developing before they launched. But, the impact that a show about Web3 could do on a social aspect, if it gets enough attention, it gets the right influencers and people involved. I mean, we can drive so much traffic to VeChain, to all these other chains we part of, Algo, HBAR, Cardano. Like, there are so many chains now that are work cohesively together. And I just hope that people can believe in us enough, because we have our content and what the stuff that we've made in the past on our Discord, and it's good. I mean, it's good, guys, and I hope you can watch it and like see that we have something special here and something that we can execute on in a way quicker manner than most film companies, because we were doing this with BetTV, like we said, with a very quick turnaround. We believe in this community. We are this community. Like, we are straight up degens, and we have been our whole lives. So it's kind of taken Web3 and this movement to understand that we could align ourselves with people that are just as much shitbag degens as we are, and like I just hope so much that people can see the value in making a show for us that can be broadcast, that can be picked up by a YouTube Red or Netflix or someone to get some more exposure to all of our blockchains. I think that there's a lot of value in that, and thank you so much for having us here and letting us ramble on.
I love it.
Shout out to Aloha, Poopy Puffs, Small Coins.
God damn, thank you. Yes,
My
I meant to say that earlier. I'm like, we would not even be here at all.
No.
Aloha,
Yeah.
Poofy, Small Coins.
Yeah, we gotta give them the props. Our community is the best. The best.
I mean,
it is a strong community, and you got. I will watch your films. You got my support. You got my vote for what it's
awesome.
I think it's amazing what you guys are working towards here.
Thanks, man. Appreciate that.
Really
and we will definitely have to sit down and do this again as we get closer and closer.
Yeah, let's do it, man. Whenever you want.
We love
All right.
it, man.
Thanks, fellas.
All right.
Thank you.
Cheers, man. Thank
Talk
you.
to you soon.
Cheers.
All right. Take care.